Good evening, everyone. Today I'm reviewing The Abandoned Planet, a point-and-click adventure by Dexter Team Games that just got a port to the Nintendo Switch. To anyone that hasn't kept up with modern releases like The Return to Monkey Island, it might seem like a strange fit to put a mouse-specific genre on a video game console with gamepad controls, and this is the Switch 1, so you don't get the fancy new mouse mode with the Joy-Cons. So does the game handle the move to analog sticks gracefully, or is this a crash landing? Well, first I'll give you a little bit of intro to the game. There's not a huge amount of story here. You're basically an astronaut whose exploratory mission is cut short when their ship has a rough landing on a seemingly uninhabited planet, one that has remnants of a past civilization but no civilians to speak of. But if you want to get more insight on the character, the game has this really cool bonus feature of having the game's original design script fully readable from the main menu, which I'll get into later. You wake up inside your crashed ship and have to find a way out and then search for either someone who can help you or some way to get back home to Earth. The Abandoned Planet utilizes a simplified interface where one click does all, at least outside of your inventory. On the Switch, both analog sticks can control the cursor, while the B button interacts with the hotspots of the world. If you're having trouble finding those hotspots, the game has a handy hotspot indicator on the X button. This is a feature many modern adventure games have, and at this point an adventure game almost feels naked without one, so I always appreciate when developers incorporate it. That said, this isn't really a pixel hunt kind of game, as most items are pretty easy to spot. There are a couple of times where you'll have to brush aside a bush or sweep some dust away to reveal something, but that's as close as the game gets to old school item finding. I don't love the interaction button being B, because that feels designed with the Xbox controller in mind and not Nintendo's, which prioritizes the right face button over the bottom face. This is slightly exacerbated by a main menu interface that uses A to confirm rather than B, so you end up with both in the same game, and that's a bit weird. There are plenty of inventory puzzles in the game, which you'll pull up with the left bumper. Inside the inventory, you can examine objects individually, combine objects together, or grab an object to use in the world. Rounding out the rest of the interface, you can pull up a simple map with ZL and a journal with the right bumper after you find it in the world. This journal is written in an alien language, but it has a lot of clues for various puzzles throughout the game, so you'll want to consult it often. All that said, how does it come together? Pretty well, actually. The first-person perspective really takes a lot of the clumsiness out of a gamepad configuration. To move from room to room, you use the D-pad, with indicators of directions in the corner, kind of like an old interactive fiction game or the old ICOM Mac Venture games like Deja Vu or Uninvited. So you don't need to hunt for an exit, you always know where they are, and moving between screens in a region is very fast. There's a tiny bit of load time when switching regions, but it's only 3 to 5 seconds. I'd say the feel of the interface on the whole is very similar to Ace Attorney's investigation mode, but a lot smoother. So with that out of the way, let's now talk about the game itself. A first-person perspective might call Myst to mind, and there is one chapter where you'll want to take down notes outside of the journal feature, but I think that's maybe implying something a lot harder than the game actually is. All of the puzzles are perfectly logical, and the alien technology you utilize is pretty easy to figure out. This might sound like a derogatory comparison, and I promise it's not, but I'm reminded a lot of Artifex Mundi's modern hidden object games, which utilize a first-person perspective and have a lot of simple inventory puzzles and mini-games just like The Abandoned Planet. See, I actually like those games a lot, and their trashy stories are my exact kind of garbage. You're just not going to be put through the ringer with super devious brain teasers. But unlike those games, The Abandoned Planet is classy and top shelf in its presentation. As you've been seeing, the game has a gorgeous VGA core aesthetic with lovely color work, and the cutscenes have rotoscoped animation in the style of Flashback or Another World. I won't spoil all of them here, of course, but they're always a treat to watch. The only downside to these cutscenes is the repetitive use of the same music cue, which only lasts 1 or 2 measures and immediately cuts out. As a composer myself, I think there should have been more reverb tail on the end, maybe some little fading motes of notes trailing away. There's plenty of interesting environments to explore, from lush jungles to scorching deserts, and most of the routing makes sense and won't leave you disoriented. The game is structured across 5 acts, with each one being a point of no return, so you never have to worry about going all the way back to the beginning of the game to find an item, or being in an unwinnable situation, or anything like that. A couple of them have some unique gimmicks, like Act 3 being on a set of islands linked by monorail that you have to travel between, or Act 4's tower having a massive amount of floors to explore. All interactions are fully voice acted for those who care about that, although the main character's performance reminds me more of an educational narrator than an immersed character. I just want to mention though that aside from the voice actress and engine developer, this whole game was made by one person, so when I'm being critical, I'm keeping that all in mind. This is an exceptional piece of craftsmanship overall, but that may also be why the game is so short, and that's one of the biggest criticisms I have with the game. My playthrough was about 3 hours in length, which is not the smallest runtime for a $15 game, but it's quite a bit shorter than other similarly priced point-and-click adventures. I don't want to get into the whole hours to dollars thing, it's generally a fool's errand, but still, I think the ideal version of this game is just a bit longer in each act. A larger city in Act 2, a fourth island in Act 3, more to do on each floor in Act 4. I knew going in that the game was short, but if I didn't, I would have been pretty surprised that I reached the finale so quickly. Now, is this a deal breaker? I think that's ultimately going to be up to the individual. After you complete the game, you'll unlock several extras. One is a new Game Plus mode that gives you only 2 hours to complete the game before the planet explodes, which seems pretty doable even if you aren't a speedrunner if you remember most of the solutions going in. But the real treat is the game script and design notes. I'm always a fan of when games include concept artwork as an extra, and certainly this game has that too, but there's something a little bit more intimate about seeing the early skeleton, isn't there? This script is formatted like a short story, which gives a little extra detail about the characters' inner thoughts and backstories, but mostly I just like learning that the developer typed this up as a design guide when mapping out the game. Similarly, the design notes are literal photographs of his notebook with sketches of environments and the alien language, and that just kicks ass. Like, it feels like I've been invited over to his house to check out the idea he had for a game. Indie developers, please include this stuff in your game as a bonus feature. It's so cool. I want to see your little thumbnails and map flowcharts, and I want to see how you wrote it down. Without that stuff, I would still grade The Abandoned Planet pretty decently because the visuals are really lovely, the atmosphere is great, the puzzle solving and exploration are relaxing, and I definitely enjoyed my time with the game. But those extra features, and the fact that this game was developed largely by one person, makes the whole thing a little extra special to me. Yeah, it's a short experience, and if you wanted to wait on a sale, I ain't gonna stop you. In fact, the game has already gone on sale on Steam for $9, so you can take that into consideration. But if you have some extra money to throw around, and you're a fan of point-and-click adventure games, The Abandoned Planet is a short but compelling ride that'll leave you satisfied. And with that, I've got just one review left in this review marathon to go, which is the Animal Crossing-esque train conductor game Locomoto. I'll be putting that review out next week, so be sure to subscribe and click on the bell to get notified when it's out. Special thanks to my indie darlings. It's thanks to my patrons that I've been able to do this for the past year, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So if you want to support me and you have $1 to offer, check out the Patreon link in the description and you can get early access to videos and some exclusive stuff. I'll be going on break from June 17th to June 24th, but I'll be back with even more reviews of anime, cartoons, and cartoony indie games. Until then, you'll find me in another castle.